A man sees something strange in the desert. A child is seen stumbling a short distance ahead, as if someone had deliberately left him by the roadside. Surprisingly, something weird is being chewed in his mouth. The man thinks it might be his eyes deceiving him, so he thinks returning to town would be best. But a few steps later he sees another child. Since he sees no one else around, he thinks this child might be lost in the desert. He approaches and asks if they need help. The child says he doesn't know where his parents are. Jeff feels pity for the child and considers taking him with him back to town. But surprisingly, without a word, the child silently walks forward. Jeff thinks the child is alone and scared, so he begins following him. After walking for half an hour in the desert, they reach a place with no network, a completely desolate area. Jeff stops and gives the child water from his remaining bottle. He doesn't realize that this single act of kindness is about to become the start of a terrifying nightmare. After drinking, when Jeff tries to take him back, the child suddenly jerks his hand away. At first, Jeff thinks the child is mischievous. But when the child begins behaving oddly, Jeff thinks perhaps the child is mentally unwell. The child gives a mysterious smile and walks away. Darkness begins to fall. Jeff wants to return home but gets lost in the desert, and the mobile network vanishes. Exhausted, he finds a cave to spend the night. Then he senses a voice and, frightened, follows it. He discovers a chasm-like valley. As he gets closer, he sees a house with lights on and a woman standing outside. Jeff feels great relief. He starts descending the ladder fixed at the chasm's edge, but the ladder is only halfway down, so he has to use an iron-chained ladder beside it. He doesn't know this ladder will lead him into a terrifying nightmare. He reaches the house and knocks many times, but gets no answer. The lights are on and he feels someone is inside. Finally, he walks straight to the woman and tells her he got lost in the desert and needs some help. Strangely, the woman doesn't respond. She just tells Jeff to sit and eat first. Jeff agrees, forced by the situation. He's a bit surprised by her warm welcome, but when he looks into his bowl, something feels off. The woman is eating enthusiastically. Perhaps her mind isn't right after being stuck in the desert. Jeff gives her all the food in his bowl and only asks for a glass of water. Seeing her eat so hungrily, he asks for her phone. But the woman says she lives here alone, with no relatives and no need for a phone. Then she explains that it's already night outside and suggests Jeff stay there. Jeff has no choice and agrees, but that night he can't sleep, tossing and turning. Next morning, while the woman is still asleep, Jeff prepares to leave, leaving behind a fat sum. As soon as he reaches the valley's edge, he feels uneasy. The landscape has become extremely treacherous, with no visible path to climb out. Only the chained ladder from last night remains. But when Jeff reaches it, he sees only a broken halfway ladder attached to the wall, making climbing impossible. With no escape, he climbs back inside the house. The woman is still asleep. Jeff sits outside the door and pulls out his camera in boredom. As he scans the surroundings with the camera, he notices everything in the house is weird. Strange pictures on walls, a large iron cage in the back room, even a sacrificial altar with a goat's head. Then the woman wakes and goes back to her work. Jeff asks about the chained ladder, wondering where it has gone, but she gives no reply. Deciding not to argue, Jeff quietly helps with her work. When they finish, the woman says if he stays until tomorrow, he might find the way out upstairs. When she found out that Jeff was still unmarried, she became even more friendly with him. He got up and went outside to check if the chain ladder had returned. But the view was the same, no sign of the chain ladder. The next morning, Jeff decided to take action. He took out a shovel from the drawer and began climbing alone. But the wall was so hard that even moving an inch forward was difficult. Yet the hope of returning home kept forcing him to keep trying. Just then, as Jeff looked up, someone threw a chicken down from above. Maybe it was done deliberately. Groaning in pain, Jeff fainted by nightfall. The shovel had fallen straight on his leg, causing him severe injury. When the woman saw him in this condition, she rushed over, cleaned his wound and bandaged it. The next morning, Jeff was still a bit unconscious. At that moment, he felt like the same boy who had met him in the desert was standing in front of him again. But before he could confirm, Jeff fell back into deep sleep. About half a month passed before Jeff's body became capable of taking a few steps outside the house. But when he went outside, he saw that the chain ladder still hadn't been returned. Fuming with anger, he went inside the house. "Where is the ladder? You've trapped me here." The woman stood quietly, as if she didn't understand anything. But then she said, "I've taken care of you." Jeff felt broken. He moved to a side and began looking at his wounds. At that very moment, two boys appeared at the edge of the canyon. Jeff quickly waved his hands and cried for help. The boys looked down and asked, "What's your problem?" Jeff immediately replied, "I accidentally ended up in this canyon. Please do something and get me out, and I will forever be grateful to you." Both boys happily agreed to help, but they said they didn't have a rope at the moment, so they told him they'd go and bring a rope. Hearing this, Jeff became very happy. He looked at their backs with hope, thinking he wouldn't have to wait long now. Very soon, a rope was thrown down from above. The boys shouted from above, "Quick, tie yourself up." Jeff carefully tied himself up properly. But Jeff didn't know that the boy who had thrown the rope kept insisting he tie himself tightly. And yet, there was a strange and creepy glint in his eyes. A few minutes later, Jeff slowly began to be pulled up. There was a relieved smile on his face. But the rope had only reached halfway when suddenly something strange happened. Things weren't going to be that easy. Soon the boys above disappeared. No matter how hard Jeff tried, nothing worked. Now he was left hanging mid-air. He had only one option: to try climbing up using the strength of his hands. But the scorching sun and desert heat began slowly pushing him toward unconsciousness. Then suddenly, a liquid substance fell on him from above. Jeff was shocked, because the boy above was now urinating on him. It was the height of insult. He was still hanging mid-air, and the boys above were swinging the rope, like they were playing with a toy. And not just that, the first boy, the one who had seemed lost in the desert, turned out to be one of them too. Now Jeff clearly understood. These boys seemed to be part of a whole gang, maybe even a family, who played with the people trapped here. Jeff kept shouting for help while hanging mid-air. But it was of no use. Eventually, when he was completely broken, the boys stopped swinging the rope. Jeff's head hit a rock, and he fell unconscious. When he woke up, it was night. But he hadn't given up. He still wanted to escape from that place no matter what. His body was now completely exhausted. At that moment, the same woman who had cared for his wounds came from behind. Seeing Jeff's condition, she sadly said, "Why are you trying so hard? Save a little strength." Jeff quickly asked, "Who are these boys?" The woman replied, "Just some children wandering in the desert." Then she warned him, "If you don't sit quietly, your suffering might get even worse." Jeff was now completely broken. He looked up at the sky and screamed loudly. Just then, those boys appeared again at the edge of the canyon. From above, they stared angrily at Jeff. A month later, it seemed like Jeff had accepted his fate. Now he often stayed trapped in the canyon with the woman. One day, when the woman saw that Jeff's shirt sleeve was torn, she took out some old men's clothes from the wardrobe and said, "Wear whatever you like." But where had those clothes even come from? But still, without thinking much, Jeff wore one of them. During those days, he had even started trying to grow vegetables. From above, the children would often throw food and drinks, and Jeff would silently accept them, as if this was now his new life. Maybe because of the alcohol and so many snacks. One night Jeff asked the woman, "Do you never think of escaping from here?" The woman just softly said, "This is it. Everything is here." Jeff couldn't really understand her answer. That same night, they drank heavily together. But suddenly, strange noises began coming from outside. Startled, Jeff picked up the axe kept nearby and limped his way outside. But what he saw out there chilled him to the bone. All those children, wearing strange makeup, were running around the canyon. But within just a few moments, those children pounced on him. They threw him to the ground and mocked him thoroughly. Their ridicule, their madness, everything combined, broke Jeff from the inside. What is this? Who are these children? Why did you trap me here? But the woman remains completely silent. She says, "There is nothing bad here. I want the two of us to spend a lifetime together here." That night, alcohol and loneliness brought them together. A strange kind of relationship that formed in the darkness. In the morning, when Jeff woke up, the woman was sleeping right next to him. He stepped outside hoping to get some relief. But he had no idea that near that same pillar, hundreds of bottle caps were collected, probably of those who had come here before him and could never leave again. Another month passed in that canyon. The vegetables Jeff had planted now had green leaves sprouting. One of the boys, upon seeing his vegetables, became very excited. He asked Jeff, "How did you grow these vegetables?" From there, Jeff saw a ray of hope. He gave the boy a little bit of information about growing vegetables and won his trust. A faint smile returned to Jeff's face. Now maybe a way to escape was about to open. At night, Jeff looked closely at the pictures hanging on the wall. It felt to him as if some emotions were flowing from those pictures. The woman explained, "This is my grandmother. She always lived here in this desolate desert. I don't know much about her, but I do know this much. She loved me a lot, just like I will love the child growing in my womb." Hearing this, Jeff was shocked. Now he realized that the woman was pregnant. But for him, this news was nothing less than a nightmare. Who would want their child to be born in such a narrow, terrifying canyon? Jeff immediately protested. But the woman ignored his words. Time kept passing. Jeff's leg was now slowly healing. He practiced every day, in the hope of escaping at any moment. In the meantime, one day that boy came again. He said, "This time I couldn't bring the cold drink." Jeff, smiling, said, "No problem. Even if it's not a cold drink, I'll teach you how to grow vegetables and other important things. Just somehow help me get out of here. We'll take the woman along too. The three of us will make a new, true family." The boy hesitated a bit, but was influenced by Jeff's words. He said, "I'll try, but it won't be easy." Just then, a boy with long hair came and dragged that boy away, far from the edge of the canyon. That night, Jeff was very excited. He spoke to the woman about city lights, happiness, and places to explore. He said, "I'll show you everything. Just come out of here once with me." The woman, for a few moments, got swayed by his words. Jeff also showed her some old photos captured in his camera, so that she could dream of a new life. But the very next morning, a loud scream was heard from outside. Jeff ran out and was shocked to see the scene in front of him. The same boy, whom Jeff had pinned his hopes on, was now hanging in the middle of the canyon. His breath had stopped. Jeff was speechless. He began to tremble with fear. The woman sat on the ground, crying uncontrollably. At that moment, Jeff's eyes were opened. The truth was now in front of him. All these boys were born in this canyon, raised under this same tradition. And they were the ones who trapped Jeff in this canyon, so that he could give birth to the next generation of their tribe. A horrifying truth, from which there now seemed to be no escape. The old men's clothes kept in the wardrobe, and the bottle caps of alcohol fixed on the pillar of the door. All these were clear signs that Jeff was not the only one who had fallen into this trap. But unfortunately, he had already missed that last chance. When he had the axe in his hand, now Jeff's eyes opened, but by then it was too late. That woman had now gone mad in anger, and holding a wooden plank in her hand, she attacked Jeff. 5 months later, Jeff was now locked in an iron cage. There was no awareness in his eyes. But that same day, a girl came wandering near the valley. She heard Jeff's desperation. As soon as the girl understood that Jeff had been imprisoned here, at that very moment, those boys caught the girl. And right in front of Jeff, they broke the neck of his last hope. Jeff was completely shattered. That night, the woman came with a cup. This time, Jeff bowed down and tried to convince her. He said, "I agree. Just let me out." But the woman's face did not change at all. She bluntly said, "You have been just a means from the start until now. Tool. Our family has never needed any outsider man. And you're still alive, only because our tradition says that the father must be kept alive until the child is born." Within a few days, unbearable pain began in the woman's stomach. She helplessly opened the cage to ask Jeff for help. Jeff now could not understand anything. He helped her, but as soon as the two of them started to return home with the child, right then, that chain ladder hanging on the wall was dropped down. As soon as Jeff saw it, he forgot everything. He ran like a madman toward that ladder. Behind him, the woman kept screaming in pain. As he reached the ladder, he looked up. Those same boys were standing at the top of the cliff, waiting for him. From behind, the innocent voices of children were heard. "It's a girl." The woman had given birth to a girl. Jeff forgot everything. Escaped the ladder, everything. His eyes were fixed on that innocent newborn girl. And the woman was smiling. She said, "Now this girl will carry forward my legacy. Our tribe will never end." For a few moments, Jeff truly forgot everything. But then from behind came silent darkness and a blow. Jeff's life was ended in that valley forever. And with that, this story also ends. Jeff was used like a tool. And after completing his mission, he forever became part of that valley.